Well, let's talk then about Canada making some, I don't know. Some of the decisions are definitely controversial. Others maybe aren't as controversial. Some are making them out to be, but weird. Riley Heidt, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Same shit, different day.
I mean, I think realistically, especially when you consider the fact you didn't make the team last year, despite also torching the WHL. I mean, really, including this season too. It's like 2.5 years now of him like just ripping the WHL apart, almost at 2 points per game pace. Didn't make it last year. I think he was going to be a long shot either way to make this team in the first place, but it's always, I mean, obviously here in Minnesota, it's more shocking for everyone else. But I mean, this is how Team Canada rolls. They do their thing where they just try to build like a projectable lineup for like almost like an NHL game. And it's like sometimes there's always these cuts or surprise additions to the team too, where it's like very, very surprising. And you're like, obviously you're going to question the decision. At the same time, it's hard to argue when they win it like just constantly. But this year, especially like with some of the cuts and omissions from this team, you could form another team that might compete for actually, it would absolutely compete.
The starting
team.
Team.
Exactly. Like it's crazy, but
gold medal, Canada B, silver medal, USA, Canada A did not medal.
Yeah. So I wanted to throw a couple of the like really surprising snubs from this team.
Are we strictly going off of the ones that got invited to camp that didn't make the team, or are we also factoring in the ones that just didn't even get invited?
Both. So like guys that, yes, they got invited, but also like, I mean, like how do you want to like categorize Seneke where like initially didn't get the invite?
Sure.
Was it an initial cut? Then he gets the invite and still doesn't make the team.
I still think the most shocking one, and it was one that didn't even make the invite to camp, is Yakimchuk. Like, given how Canada treats these things, given where the games are going to be played, given how good he looked in the preseason for Ottawa, and he's a big boy.
Yeah, and I mean, he's already...
And it's even more shocking based on the cuts.
Yes.
Because everyone kind of assumed it was between him and one more player who got clipped, and it was like, well, they can only take one of them. They didn't take either of them.
Yeah, Zane Parekh also...
Shocking that Parekh is not there.
Didn't even get an invite also. Like, that's another thing, too. Oh, that's true. Yeah, sorry.
So everyone's like, oh, okay, so Parekh's on the team. Now that Parekh got cut, it's like, wait, what?
Right. And it is like a different decor that they're bringing, because again, like we saw this when they cut Lambos a couple years ago after making 2 straight World Juniors or whatever, or at least maybe he did make 2, but usually like they are trying to bring a big rugged decor, and then obviously they're always going to have at least 1 or 2 guys that can just rip it up on the power play as quarterback. This year is a little bit different, where they don't necessarily have a ton of massive players. They've got a couple of big boys like Sam Dickinson, first round pick of the Sharks this past year. But I mean, like they're bringing both like Tanner Molendyk, Bo Akey, and a guy that for me is he definitely is solidified as a challenger for the first overall pick, but Matthew Schaefer. Talked about him before. Yeah. What he's doing right now in the OHL is absolutely insane, especially when you factor in this is what we talked about last time too. Like the fact that he missed like the start of the season with mono, which in theory everyone's like that's going to have some long-term ramifications for him. Nope, it took him like 12 games to surpass his point total from last year, where he was fully healthy.
Yeah,
the points he's putting up, and again, like he is a dynamic 2-way defenseman. The skating, but like the offense has just taken a whole other step this year. He had an absolutely outrageous assist, like 2, maybe it was last week. Honestly, just doing it regularly now, like it's just times flat circle this kid. But I mean, he is picking the puck up in his own zone, and I mean dicing through the neutral zone into the offensive zone and just serving up easy goals just on a platter for all of his teammates. He's been ridiculous, but
well, hang on though. Off that, I know that he's like being talked about to be number 1 overall. I don't remember if it was OHL or CHL specifically, and apologies if one of these guys is not in the OHL, and then it's obviously CHL, but your boy Cam Robinson threw up a graphic of the 3 top scorers. Was it for the CHL or OHL?
CHL.
CHL. And it's all guys that are draft eligible this year or next year. Insane. 2 of them guys that we've talked about a lot and guys that you've pretty firmly got in that top 5 group for this year's draft. And then Kevin McKenna, who, I don't know, I guess he's okay at hockey.
Yeah, I mean, right now, out and out, easy favorite for first overall in 2026. He plays with Ryder Ritchie.
So like far out. Like 2026 doesn't sound with all the drafts that we've covered like since we started this show. Like 2026 still feels like it's 4 years away. Right. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. But like you said, Robinson posted that, and the guy that's the out and out leader in the CHL scoring race, Michael Misa, another guy that's gonna be challenging for first overall. He is another huge omission from this team.
You know what though? If you ask Colby Cohen, it sounds like he's probably going to be playing for the Gophers.
There's this whole thing.
He got so mad. He was like offended that someone said that he's like Cam. He's potentially going to be you. Yeah, Cam. Like Colby Cohen went nuts. He's like, actually, it sounds like Minnesota is the front runner. It's like, wait, what?
He started that tweet off first, like his initial reaction to it was like, this is totally erroneous, irresponsible. I'm like, Jesus, like, calm down, dude. Like, relax. This is not a big deal.
They should raid your house, take your children into protective custody. Like, yeah.
But again, Michael Mee is a huge omission from this team. The out and out point leader in the CHL. He's putting up a goal per game, or no, over a goal per game, and he's also like just under an assist per game right now. For Saginaw.
Pretty selfish player, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. Totally super selfish. Just another dynamic 2-way centerman. Again, like, yeah, the point totals are jumping off the page this year. And this is the first year Saginaw's given him the reins as their go-to, their number 1 center. In the past years, this is one of those kids that was graded exceptional status, comes into the OHL as a 15-year-old, puts up over a point per game in the COVID shortened season. Since then, been a point per game player, but also point per game while being like very much looked at as for like secondary scoring. He's playing a wing. He was playing on the wing a lot on that Mem Cup team. And this year they give him the reins to go number 1 center, and he's just unlocked this next level of offensive ability. I mean, the generation of like scoring chances he's producing like single-handedly is incredible. At Smart Scud, we have a guy who's been doing some like just tracking data for him. And it's like, it is a joke how much offense he single-handedly creates by himself. He's a dynamic skater. Again, like a lot of this comes off the rush. And he's just so smart. He's able to just enter the zone, draw guys in, dish the puck off, go to the net. I mean, he's just like everything. Every time he touches the puck, you're thinking that it's going to end up in the back of the net. But he's a big omission from this team. But both Gavin McKenna and Porter Martone make this team. So Gavin McKenna, again, 2026. Porter Martone's 2025. He's a big winger. He's an absolute sniper. But he's also displayed some real nice playmaking. Great name. He's very fun to watch. And like with the goals that he scores, it's like highlight reel only. Like it is unbelievable. He goes Sports Center top 10 mode almost every time he touches the puck.
Okay. I want you to go quick on this. Don't put a lot of thought into it. Top 5 for this year's draft as it sits currently. Who are you going?
Yeah, no, I think I've changed my answer on this one. I think I might actually go Matthew Schaefer first.
Okay.
I might go Schaefer, Hagens, Misa, Martone. McQueen's dropped for me.
Oh, he has dropped. Okay, yeah. I was gonna say, is it McQueen?
No.
Okay.
Smart's good. I missed the meeting. I had to take care of more stuff at home, so I missed this meeting. But we went Ryabkin 5th. Not for me. It's not.
So who? Give me a couple of the names you're thinking of at least right now, instead of just dead air. Like who are you considering?
I really like Jackson Smith. Might be a bit rich at 5, but a big kid that moves that well, that like his floor is a solid number 3 with really good projectable defense. He's ultra physical. I really like him a lot. Lyndon Lakovich, Moose Shaw is 6'4", 6'5", like power forward winger, dynamic playmaking, shots taken, a ridiculous step forward. I might even put Victor Eklund in Sweden. He might be like flirting with number 5 for me. Again, maybe it's a tad rich, but like what he brings to the table is just super, super projectable. He's kind of like both he and his brother William Eklund, who shout out William Eklund having a great year in San Jose, by the way, finally like really ripping it up. They both like in their draft years looked like guys that were just like, yes, they might be pretty small, but they will hit every single thing that moves. But Victor Eklund, this like 2025 eligible Victor Eklund, he has even more of it, and he is crushing guys. And he's playing first line for Hugh Garden and the Allsvenskan, almost at a point per game there. Just a couple of other guys that I'm considering.
Would you say that it's a pretty steep drop off after 4 though? Like those first 4 guys are like pretty firmly planted in your top group?
I wouldn't say it's a massive drop off. Okay. I don't think.
It's more dealer's choice kind of thing.
Yeah. Like again, it's not like a crazy drop off, but
okay. So the other question then that I have off of the list you just gave me, if he was part of this group, where's McKenna go?
No, he's right in the mix for first. Absolutely. Like what this kid can do. Like, I mean, this is also a kid at 15 or 16, went to the U18s this past year and was like the second best player behind Matthew Schaefer, who was also an underager at that U18 tournament. Like he may have been Canada's second best player there. He might be like, he has a legit chance to finish the World Juniors as top scorer. Like he is legitimately unbelievable. Like he makes people look stupid every time he touches the puck in Medicine Hat.
So this might help for some of the listeners. Like stack him with Celebrini and Bedard in their draft years. Like
right there.
Like, but like, so just like all 3 of them are kind of the same, or do you have any kind of tiering across them?
No, when you look at like just their raw upside, okay, they're all right there, like
all freaks.
Immediately enter the NHL. And
so Celebrini, like, McKenna, Bedard is the ranking order.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's
it's Celebrini, McKenna, Bedard.
Too many dashes. It's funny too because like when you look at what they bring to the table as far as like what they're going to do in the NHL like long term, it's so different, but all just unbelievable. Like McKenna gives you again like that offense is just ridiculous. Like the skill and his ability to just take guys like 3-on-1, no problem, is insane. Bedard's got that absurd shot. Celebrini's just like a perfect hockey player, like no weaknesses. And like we're seeing the offense pop right now. But again, this is another guy who's just such a good 2-way centerman. And he's taken absolutely no time to rip it up in San Jose on a bad San Jose team. And I mean, he is like the best player.
Bad San Jose, but at least he's not in Chicago.
Yeah. And also, again, just because we're mentioning Celebrini and we mentioned Eklund, like shout out Will Smith, who's really turned it on of late, like after a very, very slow start.
You know, like, he's been pretty respectable really since good. Smacking up Chris Rock.
Totally. Yeah, no, that's absolutely. Yeah, no, everyone was a big fan of that.
He's been all right.
But yeah, no, Will Smith, he's putting up points now. He's obviously, I think he's like probably 0.75 points per game maybe now.
Okay, like 3-4 years from now, is he a center or a wing?
I still look at him more as a wing.
Okay.
Even though there's some like solid playmaking in his game, obviously, but I just still think like just given his frame, unless he really like bulks up, I just think the game is like the way he moves, how skilled he is, and the good shot that he's got, I feel like just lends itself really well to taking guys wide or like kind of more so perimeter versus like a guy like Celebrini who just lives in the middle of the ice.
Oh, that's why it's just center. Oh shit. Okay, that makes sense. All right, the one other cut that we need to talk about, and it'll kind of stem into the remainder of the show for us.
Well, I've got a couple other guys too still.
Oh, okay. No, then do those. We'll finish on the transitional one.
Well, I'll just rattle off real quick my list of guys that I was at least notable or surprised.
Sure.
So like
hit the list and then we'll drill into a couple.
So Michael Misa, Riley Heidt, Beckett Seneke again is like one that still perplexes me.
I think he just got booted because no one knows how to pronounce his last name correctly.
Carter Yakubchuk, Zane Perek, Andrew Crystal, Denver Barkey, and obviously our boy Riley Heidt. Denver Barkey is like really interesting to me because when I honestly like look at that in the lens of the guys that they did bring for like the bottom six or slash just like out and out fourth line role, I think they got pretty repetitive and guys that like they're solid in that role, but like Denver Barkey's game, it's almost like when they brought Caden Bank here that year and he was just their guy they could throw on the ice, just like do a job. Denver Barkey's that guy, but he brings like legit offense too. And when I like, so I pair that with the fact that they bring guys like they bring all of Cataford, Ethan Gauthier, Cole Baudouin, Tanner Howe. And the big surprise for me to make the team was Luca Pinelli. That was the biggest surprise to me.
Can I say, though, the fact that there wasn't more smoke around Tanner Howe making the team earlier is like crazy. That's a guy that needed to be on this team.
He's perfect in that role they're going to play in.
I'm biased, but like you're unbiased, so you back me.
Yeah, no, I wasn't surprised at all that he made that. I mean, he's going to fill that role so well. And it's been like just because this is what we talked about with him for the last 2 or 3 years. It was just like everyone was just like, yeah, he puts up points because he plays with Bedard. And then you actually watched Regina play, and he literally didn't play with Connor Bedard.
Right.
And he was just like looked at no matter what. It's like they would always frame it. It's like, yeah, he puts up all these points because he plays with Bedard.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. There was definitely a stretch where I fell in that camp. Like you just assume, right? Like, oh, second best player on the team. Obviously he's playing with Bedard. Like, why wouldn't he be? And it's like, oh.
Yeah, and like the only other like if you want to call it like a knock or something that you would just like always have to like reference that was accurate is he was one of the oldest players. I think he was eligible for that draft by like a week or two. So he was one of the older players in the draft, but at the same time, like again, it was just so funny when people would talk about Tanner Howe. It's like, yeah, he put up like 75 points on a shitty Regina team, but he's playing with Connor Bedard. So like that's how that goes. Like, no, he literally isn't playing with Bedard. Like he's on a different line almost every game. They play together like on the power play. That's about it. But I was happy that he made the team again. He's going to fill that role really well. But leaving a guy like Denver Barkey off, who is the perfect fourth line player at a World Junior event for Team Canada, while bringing all of Cataford, Gauthier, Baudouin, Howe, and the big one that was shocking to me was Luca Pinelli. That's a 5'9" centerman who is mostly offense. Having a really good year, great player, but just seems like a guy that like, again, like somewhat of a straying from the norm that we see from like a Team Canada at the World Juniors. A 5'9" centerman who's like pretty offensive. He's going to be on their fourth line, or he's just going to be an extra for them. I was surprised that like Barkey got left off while bringing all those guys. But I mean, the big one is for me, Seneke. It's crazy. Like he also, when he initially didn't even when he was cut or whatever.
Yeah.
His next 2 games put up 11 points.
But
and they like
really
forced
weird.
their hand.
Right. But it also feels weird to invite him and then let him go. Like if you have a late ad like that, it's almost like, oh yeah, we're adding him because he's probably on the team.
Right.
It's like, what happened? Like, I don't know.
You don't know?
Now I have to comment then. There's a name you didn't say.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The guy that will transition.
Are we getting to that now, or do you got one you want to dive into still?
The last 2 things real quick was like, again, when we talk about the first thing I'll mention is bring in for goaltender, and he will maybe play 1 game or he won't play, but they want him there. The goaltender, they bring Jack Ivankovic over Joshua Ravensbergen. Ravensbergen for me is he's solidified. He might go top 15 this year. He's in Prince George. He's been ridiculous. He was an initial walk-on to the Prince George Cougars last year. Was one of the better goaltenders in WHL. He put up good numbers again after a slow start. He's a 6'5"
walk-on for junior sounds weird.
Yeah, I know, isn't that weird? But this is a 6'5" freak athlete, real solid goaltender who was like pretty raw at the beginning of his tenure, and that's like why he was necessarily a walk-on or whatever. It is so weird to say that, but has just like, I don't know if it's just raw coaching, but he's picked up so many like just better habits and not relying on his size and athletic ability, but like just the way he's developed as far as like reading plays and everything like that, like just killing plays. I was surprised that they brought Ivankovic over a guy like Ravensbergen. And because I mean, another like Ivankovic, great goaltender for me, is probably going to be a guy that goes like 4th, 5th round. So that was interesting to me. And this will transition into where we go next with this. But the youth movement that they bring with Martone, McKenna, and Schaefer, first of all, leaving off Misa, but bringing those 3, it's crazy. But bringing that many either this year draft eligible or next year's draft eligible guys. That's a stray from the norm for them. They usually like bringing like 19-year-olds, but doing that and then leaving off guys that have made this team before, like Matthew Wood, University of Minnesota.
Been on the team
that was
twice.
interesting to me. Yep. So a guy that's made the team 2 times before, he gets left off, and they bring in 3 kids that are like 17 and 16. So that was very interesting to me.